My phone says it's 3 degrees outside and it feels like 1 degree. I can tell you, I don't need my phone to tell me that. It feels like it too. But there's a reason I'm taking off all my warm clothing. See, my assignment today is to make a video that'll give you everything you need to make a decision between the Sony XM4 and the Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro. But there's a catch. I cannot put back any warm clothing until I finish doing that. So I have to make this video short, concise, and to the point. The idea being, I don't waste any of the viewers' time and I don't freeze to death. So maybe we just get started, yeah? Okay, first, design and build quality. Build quality is good on both of them. I don't feel like this is going to be a purchase decision based on build quality. I will say the design of the Sony XM4 earbuds, it's a little bulbous and large, but there's a reason for that we'll get back to later on in this video, which means we should probably move on to fit and comfort. Now that is a contentious thing because when it comes to fit and comfort, if you've got very small ears, there's a good chance the Sony XM4 will not fit your ear. The Soundcore, on the other hand, because of the way it's designed and because of the way it anchors itself in your ear with the ear tips as well as the wings, has a far greater chance of fitting your ears regardless of size and shape. So for fit and comfort, I would say the Soundcore is better. But what about apps and features? Something that is key to a wireless IEM. Well, both of them come with apps. Both apps are clean, they work well, and both devices come with a gamut of features, most of which work exactly as they're supposed to. But the Sony XM4 races to the fore over here because it comes with so many more features and certain features that you simply won't find on other devices. For example, if you tap and hold any one of the earbuds, it'll go into transparency mode, it'll pause your music, you can have a conversation with someone, take your finger off, and it'll go back to what you were doing before. That, combined with features like being able to switch between active noise cancellation modes purely based on your geolocation or what you're doing, whether you're walking, running, or on a bus somewhere. These are the things that make the overall experience of the Sony better. I will say, however, that the Soundcore Liberty 3 Pro has better customizable touch control, so it has that going in its favor. But overall, there are just more features and far more customizability on the Sony. So for apps and features, I'm going to give Sony the win here. Which brings us to active noise cancellation and transparency mode. Now this, you get no points for guessing which one's better. Sony clearly has much more experience in this and it shows. The active noise cancellation is certainly a cut above with the Sony. So is the transparency mode, combined with the fact that you can actually customize both of those things to a far greater degree, makes the whole active noise cancelling and transparency mode experience far greater on the Sony. As for sound quality, oh boy, this is something I can never concise into a few words, but you know what? I'd better try. My only saving grace is the sun is out, but the clouds are coming. It's about to get even colder. So, sound quality. When you talk about bass, there's at least two things you might look at. One is bass in general. Like if you're listening to the bass line of Red Hot Chili Peppers or Dream Theater or Silvertide or perhaps a jazz quartet, this is overall bass and this is representative of the entire reproduction of bass frequencies. And in that sense, both of these devices excel because they're both quite bass forward and they're tuned reasonably well in this regard. However, when it comes to the thump of the beat, the Soundcore is just better. So if you happen to listen to EDM or maybe dubstep, which admittedly is not really a thing anymore, THRME, what? Then the Soundcore is probably better for you. But for everything else, the Sony is a very rich representation of bass. Now, coming up to the mids, both of them are good. But in the Soundcore, the mids sound very recessed because of that very accentuated V-shaped frequency curve. And that's not fixable by EQ, not really. You can help it a little, you can't really fix it. On the Sony though, it's much more responsive to EQ. You can bring those mids and highs up a little bit and get much closer to a balanced frequency response on the Sonys. Add to that the fact that the Sony has a very impressive soundstage and a very nice representation of dynamic range, makes the Sony's sound reproduction experience far richer and more finessed on the whole, I find. As for the highs, if you've seen my channel, you know what I think about the Soundcore's highs. They're definitely hot and harsh and they get a little too overbearing, at least for my taste. The Sony, on the other hand, much more nuanced, much more finely balanced. It's just a nicer experience. However, there is one caveat. If you listen to heavy metal or any kind of music where there's a lot happening very quickly, very loudly, and at the same time, then both these devices lose their composure. And if that's what you want to listen to, may I suggest that you look at wired IEMs, because in my humble opinion, wireless IEMs, they're not quite there yet. You know what the difference between these two devices is? When I talk about the Soundcore and they say it's good at something, I genuinely mean it, but only when compared to other wireless IEMs. But when I say the Sony is good at something, I can confidently start comparing it with wired IEMs, and it manages to hold its own, at least in this price category. That is the difference between the Sony and the Soundcore. And for me, the overall sound experience of the Sony is just leaps and bounds better. But I fully acknowledge and admit that for a lot of people out there, for the reasons I said so earlier, the Soundcore might actually be the better sounding device. Which brings us to the value proposition and the conclusion. Actually, no, there's two more things that I absolutely have to talk about. I can't believe I'm extending this video, but it's important to talk about. One is connectivity. There's two things you must know. One, the Soundcore has multi-connect. So if you want that, the Soundcore is the only thing that will give it to you. The Sony doesn't have it. The other is LDAC performance. Both of these are LDAC devices. Now LDAC has three modes. It's got low bitrate mode for better connection quality, high bitrate mode for better audio quality, and a sort of medium mode around 600 kbps for a compromise between the two. Now I'm not one for compromises. If I'm paying for LDAC, I want the full shebang, and if you're anything like me, you might go into developer options and force it onto full audio quality, and when you do that, the Soundcore kind of shits the bed. I kid you not, every 3 seconds it drops out. It just cannot handle full strength LDAC at highest bitrate. The Sony on the other hand, okay, let me paint a picture for you, right? I'm on this aircraft. I'm going to a land far away. I'm sitting there with my XM4s in my ear. I'm listening to music. I've got active noise cancellation cracked up to the max. I'm looking at everyone else. I'm saying, yeah, I'm clearly better than you, obviously. Do you see these? I've got the XM4. You have to put up with that baby crying. Me, not so much. And right in the middle of all this gloating, I realize I have to go to the washroom. So I get up and I make a beeline to the washroom. Halfway down the aisle, I realized I'd left my cell phone behind. I turned around to have a look, and lo and behold, there were 3 other people between me and my seat waiting also to go to the washroom. The stakes were high. I had to get there, and I had to get there before everyone else. So I said, you know what? Point of no return. I continued walking down the aisle, past the galley, beyond the metal carts, past the cabin crew, cut that old lady off. I get into the washroom, I close the door, and I realize the music is still going. I'm at least 35 feet away from my seat, and we're talking LDAC at the highest bitrate here. That is how much better the Sony's connection quality is. Is it a deal breaker? It is if you want the most out of your LDAC, but I will say that even on balanced mode, sound quality is pretty good on both devices, so it might not be a deal breaker for you. The other thing I absolutely have to talk about is battery life. Now, remember at the beginning of the video, I said that the Sony was slightly large and bulbous in shape. Now, one of the reasons for that is the size of the battery. On LDAC with full quality, with active noise cancellation at full strength and volume at roughly 55 to 65%, it gives you over 6 hours of battery life consistently. Whereas the Soundcore with medium LDAC, active noise cancelling at full strength and volume at 55 to 65% gives you only about 4 hours. And both of them come with wireless charging as well as quick charging. So for battery life, it's very clear that the Sony is miles ahead. Which finally, and thank God because I'm freezing, brings us to the conclusion. There's only 2 real outcomes that usually come out of these videos. One, that you get more for more money and therefore the Sony is worth more money, or you've reached the point of diminishing returns and spending more money on the XM4 is not worth it. Neither of those things is true, because it is my firm belief that in the wireless IEM world, the Sony XM4 marks the point of diminishing returns. That is where it starts. Right up to the XM4, you seem to get more bang for buck. Beyond the XM4 is when you start getting less for your money, which means it would be the easiest thing in the world for me to say, if you have the money, buy the XM4. But the fact is, if you're looking for a more universal fit, if you're looking for something that'll work better in heavy gym sessions, if you're looking for something that'll play EDM and pop with that thump that you like, and if you like a V-shaped frequency response curve, then the Soundcore might well be the better device for you. Now the facts are all on the table. Which one's right for you is something you have to ask yourself. What you can ask of me is what my next video is going to be. And for that, I'm gonna have to ask you to maybe hit that subscribe button and stick around, because I'm not stopping. Except for right now, because the feeling in my fingers is kind of starting to go, and okay, you know what? I'm just gonna put my clothes back on. Till next time, stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful, and try and stay warm. Namaste. Oh my God, it is cold and it's a little bit breezy because for some reason I chose to film next to a big water body. Oh, this YouTube thing is gonna kill me.